So, are you down with the TPP? The Trans-Pacific Partnership is the proposed trade deal involving 12 different nations. It's being negotiated mostly in secret since the Bush administration. Now, the U.S. Trade Representative is in Japan for a new round of conversations regarding this wide-spanning free trade deal, which will affect everything from medicine to patents to internet freedom. The next round of TPP talks kicks off in Brunei on Thursday, and this will be the first time that Japan officially participates in these talks. And the ambassador from New Zealand said that a deal could be reached, get this, as soon as this year. To discuss the latest on TPP and what it means for you, Melinda St. is the International Campaign Director at Public Citizens Global Trade Watch, and she joins me now. Melinda, thank you so much for joining me. Let's first off by talking about what you're hearing about them. What's the latest information coming out?
Well, the TPP, as you mentioned, are talks between the U.S. and 11 other countries. But it's important for listeners to understand that this is not so much about trade. There are 29 chapters, only 5 of them have to do with trade. What actually is happening in these negotiations are negotiations that have to do with our access to medicines, that have to do with our freedom on the internet, that have to do with the financial regulation, of food and product safety. And what we're seeing is that after 19 rounds of negotiations, multi-years, they've missed deadline after deadline of conclusion. And yet now they're planning to claim that they're nearing conclusion. But what we're concerned about is what that will mean is that the negotiations will go further underground.
Very interesting. Now, one of the things that your group and others push is that the TPP is so secretive that it's very hard to really get on either side to agree with it or to not agree with it. One of the things that has to happen in order for the TPP to go through is that Congress and lawmakers from all these different governments have to debate and agree upon it. Do you think that that will be a time where finally we'll be able to know, we'll have this can of worms open and we'll know what's going on, that transparency that you're looking for?
Well, we certainly hope that that's the case. In the U.S. Congress has the authority over trade agreements. However, the administration and some in Congress are hoping to fast track the authority, so to give the authority completely over to the executive so that they can only vote yes or no with no amendments. And this is a multi-thousand-page document that they would only be able to vote yes or no. And we're hoping that that is not the case, because if indeed Congress is able to debate and able to change things to make sure that it actually is in the public interest, then we can have something. But unfortunately, there are 19 rounds of negotiation. They want to sign an agreement before Congress can even have an opinion about it.
Now, a deal of this magnitude, you're talking about the complications, a deal of this magnitude has never actually happened before. Obviously, all of these different governments want to have a say and have specific things for their government. How likely is it that something like this will actually come to fruition?
Well, it's very unlikely in the circumstance that we're facing right now, because what we're seeing is that actually there are enormous controversies in the negotiations. There are 2 chapters where there isn't even text on the table, and so for them to actually say that they're going to try to conclude an agreement, that's actually spin to try to put the negotiations underground. They don't have agreement on intellectual property. In fact, many of the other countries are opposing the U.S. position because they're pushing extreme provisions by the U.S. pharmaceutical companies to expand their patents and to make it so that generic drug companies can't compete to keep drug prices low. So that's just one example of the extreme controversies in the negotiations. We can understand that there's a push for them to try to claim that they're nearing conclusion, because we know that the longer these negotiations take place, the more people will actually be able to see what's happening, and it will not be able to survive because of the very extreme proposals that we know are being negotiated and that are being pushed by the largest corporations.
Now, something interesting to note is even some of these governments are expressing hesitancy. Japan's Central Union of Agriculture Cooperatives adopted a declaration on August 8th saying that it has grave problems with the TPP and that it could jeopardize food safety and universal health care services and essentially undermine the nation's sovereignty, is what they went so far as to say. So obviously others are having problems with this. It's not just advocacy groups and opponents to this. But break it down for the average American. You started doing it a little bit ago. What will it mean for me in my daily life when I get up and use the computer or go to the pharmacy? How will it affect me?
Well, if the extreme proposals go through, the concern would be that if you go to the pharmacy, and for people around the world, life-saving medicines, the cost of those could actually increase if in the intellectual property provisions of this agreement, they actually extend the patents. And what that means is it extends monopolies. That's the antithesis of free trade, but extend monopolies so that drug prices are higher. And that has life and death consequences for people, for example, in Vietnam, which is participating in the negotiations. The other concerns around the internet, there are proposals in the text that would police the internet, even small-scale copies that people use just to be able to post to Facebook and so forth. Those types of things could be policed, and those types of provisions were actually thrown out of the U.S. Congress in the big SOPA debate, the Stop Online Piracy Act. Now, through the back door, they're trying to get it in the TPP.
Very interesting. Melinda St. International Campaigns Director at Public Citizens Global Trade Watch. Thank you so much.